Forks, Washington. Winter 2030. It was a moonless night, the kind of darkness that can't be pierced by headlights or memories, only by premonitions. Bella sensed something was wrong, even before Renesmee burst through the door. "Mom, there's an ambulance on the road, in front of the high school." Edward was no longer at her side. He had vanished. The moment Renesmee said ambulance, Edward read someone's thoughts miles away and flew toward them. Bella followed. The scene was chaos. Flashing lights, students gathered, a body on the ground covered with a thermal blanket, and Emmett, shirt torn, soaked in blood that wasn't his. "I didn't mean to," he said, still trembling. Next to him, Rosalie couldn't look at him. Alice saw nothing, and Carlisle was on his knees, checking the pulse of the boy. Jared Salter, 17 years old, unconscious, injured, bitten. "Tell me you didn't turn him," Edward whispered. Emmett closed his eyes. "He was trapped under the car, broken ribs, fire. I couldn't let him die." "So you turned him?" "No, I just gave him a chance. I didn't know if he'd survive." 2 days later, Jared opened his eyes. His pupils were black as oil, his skin pale as the moon, and on the heart monitor in Forks Hospital, there were no pulses. News reached the reservation before nightfall, and Sam Uli was already standing in front of the Cullen house that night. "You broke the treaty. It was an accident," said Carlisle. "There was no intention." "Doesn't matter. The rules were clear. Not one more, ever." Jacob arrived minutes later, not fazed. He hadn't taken the pack's side in weeks. And if Jared had died, would that have been better? Sam didn't answer. He just lowered his head and whispered, a voice without return, "This is war." It started with surveillance, wolves on the forest borders, night guards. Then, a European vampire visiting the Cullens disappeared. And after that, Renesmee was intercepted on her way to the river. Jacob defended her with his life, but was wounded. "What are you doing?" he yelled at Sam. "Defending our land, like we always did." Bella found him at dawn, blood on his neck. "Are you with me?" she asked. "I'm with you," he said, "but my pack isn't anymore." The attack came on a Saturday. 5 wolves crossed the line and destroyed the cabin Bella and Edward shared. No one was inside, but the message was clear: you're not welcome. Carlisle called an emergency meeting. Rosalie was furious. Emmett, devastated. Alice, blocked. Edward, shattered. "It's not just about what happened," said Jasper after a long silence. "It's about knowing this could always happen, that one day someone would cross the line." "What now?" asked Bella. "Now we decide," said Carlisle. "Do we fight or do we leave?" That night, Bella heard Edward speaking with Jacob deep in the woods. "You know we didn't want this. And I know Sam didn't do it out of hate. He did it out of fear." "So what will you do?" Jacob didn't answer. He just said, "Next time, if I stand between them to protect you, they won't let me come back." A week later, Jared escaped. Still unstable, still young, still thirsty. He was seen near the river. He approached the reservation. Sam and Paul intercepted him. And though they tried to talk to him, Jared attacked. Paul died instantly. And with that, everything changed. The wolves crossed the line with force. The battle happened on the southern slope, near where Bella and Edward's wedding was once held. Emmett versus Leah, Jasper against Quill, Rosalie wounded by Embry, Alice protecting Esme, Edward searching for Bella, and Bella, covered in earth, shield fully extended, trying to keep Renesmee from seeing anything. Jacob arrived last, his eyes full of desperation. He saw Sam and Carlisle face to face, about to kill each other. And then he jumped between them. Enough! A second before the impact. Silence. Everything froze. Carlisle lowered his arms. Sam, wounded, stepped back. Jacob looked at both sides. "Paul is dead. Jared too. Do you really want to add more names to that list?" No one answered, because there were no answers left. That night, the war stopped, but peace didn't return. The Cullens left Forks. The pack split again. Jacob stopped phasing for a while, and Charlie, confused and overwhelmed, only asked one thing. "I don't want to know more. Just come back alive if you ever return." Bella closed the cabin door without looking back. Edward took her hand, and for the first time since her transformation, she cried without tears, because the family they built, the home they protected, was no longer theirs, and the future was in ruins. 5 years later, Forks had changed, so had the world. The Cullens now lived in northern Canada, among untouched forests and constant clouds. No contact with humans, no news from the reservation, no Jacob. Renesmee was no longer a child. She walked like a human, moved like a vampire. Her voice held the firm tone of her father and the quiet sensitivity of her mother. But her heart was different from both. She remembered what others tried to forget. "I want to go back to La Push," she said one night, softly. Edward and Bella looked at each other. Bella shook her head. Edward, with tired eyes, simply replied, "It's not our territory." "But it is my home," Renesmee said, "and maybe it still can be." Going back wasn't easy. The border was still protected by memories of the conflict, but there was no hatred anymore, only silence. Sue Clearwater saw her first, then Leah, who barely recognized her, and finally Jacob. He had changed, longer hair. Lines time had drawn even on a shapeshifter, but his eyes, they were still his. "I thought you'd never come back," he said. Renesmee didn't reply right away. She just stepped closer and hugged him, tight, as if 5 years hadn't passed. "I came to fix what we broke." Jacob gathered the pack, Renesmee, the Cullens. And for the first time since the split, both sides looked each other in the eye. They were no longer enemies, just survivors, wounded, tired, maybe ready to start again. Carlyle spoke first. "We don't want what was, just a space where no one has to fear." Sam nodded. "And where no one has to choose between loyalty and love." Bella looked at Jacob, for the first time in years, and he, without words, gave her a half smile. Not of peace or forgiveness, but of understanding. The new treaty wasn't written in blood or signed with claws. It was woven in the steps of Renesmee and Jacob walking the beach of La Push together. In Emmett helping rebuild a house, in Esme gifting plans for a mixed school, in Seth teaching wolf children to read and vampire children to laugh. Not everyone forgot. Rosalie still kept her distance. Leah still mistrusted the Cullens, and some tribal elders whispered old warnings at sunset. But every new moon, when the sky was clear, a wolf and a golden-eyed girl sat together at the cliff's edge. And in silence, they remembered that love isn't always enough, but sometimes it's enough not to start a war again. Renesmee had done it. She didn't bring back the past, but she saved the future, and that was her true gift. Not her blood, nor her fast growth, but the power to unite what once seemed broken forever.